Guru Sri Juta Padakamalang.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to our channel, Bhagavad-gita Here It Is, where we are reading Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Latika. We are in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, Knowledge of the Absolute, roughly in the middle. I will read text 14 today. Devi yesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayame tang tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So if you are learning some of the verses by heart, this is one of those core verses that are very that anchor us in the philosophy of the Bhagavad-gita. And yes, here we have existence in a nutshell. We are in the material world. The energies of the material world are overwhelming. We cannot control them, and we cannot avoid being controlled by them. Time is pushing us forward at every moment. We are in this body and we cannot get out of it. So many energies. But Krishna is the owner of these energies, and if we take shelter of him, then the energies, they are not more powerful than Krishna. And of course, a statement like that, we can't really do so much with it. We have to understand more in the detail and in the process and how to do it. But to actually accept this point, this world is consisting of Krishna's very powerful energies, and we are under their influence, more or less, in different ways, but we are unable to counteract that influence. But for Krishna, counteracting the influence is not a problem at all. I'm reading the purport. Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered. So that's us. We are originally of the spiritual nature, but since we have come under the influence of the material energy, and also made a decision to not be part of the spiritual atmosphere, therefore our spiritual nature is covered, and we can't exactly access it, and we can also not fully manifest it at this stage. It's still us, it's still there within us. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual nature, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the Supreme Will, which the living entity cannot overcome. I had a question. Somebody actually wrote a question in the comment field below here, which I was very happy to receive. And if you have any questions, you're also very welcome to leave them for me. I'll come back to them. I'll answer them there. And this one also sparked some point. And the question was, I don't have it in front of me, but something similar, that some people turn to the personal God and some people are meditating on the impersonal Brahman. And they seem to be making spiritual progress, and they don't seem to have a need for the personal. How to understand that there's this difference? So here's the difference. The difference is that Krishna has multifarious energy. He is the source of all the energy, spiritual and material energies. So what we see around us here, they're all his material energies. And that is considered the inferior nature, but still it is Krishna's energy. So the spiritual energy is a superior energy, and that is also Krishna's energy. So when we understand the impersonal Brahman as being one aspect of the person, then there is no contradiction, then there is no confusion. And then we are actually able to connect with the actual truth, which we want to do. We want to have this knowledge of the absolute so we can make valid choices. I say that a lot, don't I? That we want to make rational, valid choices, and to do that we need to understand the premises. Who are we? What is this world? What are the alternatives? What is the spiritual world? Also, I also want to say that sometimes we don't make any choices, and that is also a valid path, because sometimes we're at that point where we are very close to, how to say, when that desire for the knowing the absolute, understanding the meaning of life is coming up very strongly in us, but we don't have enough knowledge to put it into good use. And therefore, when we look around in the world and we don't have that knowledge, I have that memory of just feeling, yes, something should happen, but I don't know what. So I'll just put myself out there and see what happens. And somehow or another, then I managed to have some experiences that made me more disillusioned in the material existence, and it also enabled me to come in contact with the Hare Krishna devotees so that I could connect to this knowledge. So that's also all right. If we don't know anything, then maybe it's kind of foolish to make choices based on ignorance. But now we are here sharing the knowledge of the Bhagavad-gita, so we are not in that unfortunate position. We have this knowledge and we want to take full advantage of it. Especially as we are human beings and we actually can do it. So now we spoke about that no one can trace out the history of the becoming conditioned in this material world. Consequently, his release, the soul, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. Inferior material nature is defined herein as divine nature due to its divine connection and movement by the divine will. Being conducted by divine will, material nature, although inferior, acts so wonderfully in the construction and destruction of the cosmic manifestation. The Vedas confirms this as follows: Mayang tu prakriting vidyan, mayanang tu maheshwaram. Although Maya, illusion, is false or temporary, the background of Maya is the supreme magician, the personality of Godhead, who is Maheshwara, the supreme controller. This is from Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Yeah, so that's another question that comes up and that can never really be fully answered. Here Prabhupada is saying that no one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in this material history, because we can't remember it. We can't go back in time like that. We can accept the concept of having a belonging in the spiritual world and having free choice, having free will. I would rather say we can't always make our choices, but we can always have our desires, and the spiritual atmosphere is based on desire. And if that desire is not harmonious to that existence, it's not harmonious to the the concept of a dynamic, alive spiritual relationship, that existence where there's just an exchange of loving acts and thoughts and feelings between Krishna and the devotees, and also among the devotees, then if our desire is different, then we need a different place, and Krishna has given us the material world. But the material world is very complicated and we do get entangled in it. But at least if we can come to the point where we can see that, then at least we will be able to grow a longing, grow a desire to reach to that spiritual existence where we have our actual real home. And that spiritual existence is based on love for God, actually. That is what it's based on. And if that love is lacking or covered or misguided, then we are given this this other place that is different from that. And it is described here how it is very, very difficult to overcome. Another meaning of guna is rope. It is to be understood, say, Esha Gunamai, that's the verse here. This Gunamai consisting of the 3 modes of material nature. But another meaning of the word guna is rope. It is to be understood that a conditioned soul is tightly bound by the ropes of illusion. A man bound by hands and feet cannot free himself. He must be helped by a person who is unbound. Because the bound cannot help the bound, the rescuer must be liberated. Therefore, only Lord Krishna or his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, can release the conditioned soul. Without such superior help, one cannot be freed from the bondage of material nature. Devotional service or Krishna consciousness can help one gain such release. So it seems a little unfair here. We came here by some kind of choice, but we can't get out. The thing is, if we can change our desire, then Krishna will help us get out. And if we do not change our desire, then we don't want to get out, because there's really no middle ground. Some schools of thought speak about this, merging into the light or coming to the nirvana, but that's not really a complete level of existence, because eternally we are actually persons. Prabhupada also brings that up sometimes. He's saying those who are propagating this Mayavad philosophy that everything is one and we're all one and we will all merge into this oneness, and everything we see in this world is illusion, that seeing ourselves as different personalities and individuals, that is an illusion. That will actually bring people to think, so why would I want this spiritual existence or this spiritual liberation if it means I will just become an undifferentiated oneness? I'd rather stay here and have friends and families and individuality. So this real, or I shouldn't say real, but I will say complete spiritual realization includes personality. First of all, we see that we are persons ourselves. And especially we want to see that Krishna is that supreme person upon whom everything rests. Krishna, being the Lord of the illusory energy, can order this insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul and out of his paternal affection for the living entity, who is originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. So we come back to this point. Sometimes this world is compared to a prison. And in general, you go to prison, you get a sentence, and it has an end date. But some crimes that are a little more severe, they don't have an end date. You're just in there indefinitely until you may be able to get. I want to say mercy, but generally you use another word. It means you are released not on a legal ground, but on the ground of the king or the president, just granting you this freedom, and you're able to get there if you have changed. So it's similar to this material world. We live here, and it's like a sentence. Due to our own activities, we get a new face, a new body, a new life, and then the starting point there is the sum of all our previous activities give us this body and a level in existence where we can start off to perform new activities, and then in the next life there will be new activities, so on. This goes on, but it's actually possible for Krishna to open the door and let us out of this prison, and he's not going to do it. We speak about causeless mercy, and then you could think, well, why isn't he just merciful to everyone? Why doesn't he let everyone out? Well, he could do that, but out of his respect for our desire, he's not going against our own desire. And as long as we maintain that desire for our own separate existence, for our own separate enjoyment, when we are not when we don't want to be part of that loving relationship with God. And so many people don't want that. They don't believe there is a God. They don't believe there's any point with a God. And then Krishna is not going to force them to, just pull that illusion away and just show them it's like this. No, we have come here because that's what we wanted, and Krishna is giving us that opportunity for as long as we like. But it's also no problem for him that for that soul who has come to the point where he desires to surrender in love to Krishna, there's really no problem for on Krishna's part to lift the cover of illusion from our eyes. The word Mam Eva are also significant. Mam means unto Krishna, Vishnu only, and not Brahma or Shiva. Although Brahma and Shiva are greatly elevated and are almost on the level of Vishnu, it is not possible for such incarnation of Rajaguna, passion, and Tamaguna, ignorance, to release the conditioned soul from the clutches of Maya. In other words, both Brahma and Shiva are also under the influence of Maya. Only Vishnu is the master of Maya. Therefore, he alone can give release to the conditioned soul. The Vedas, Svetashvatara Upanishad, confirms this in the phrase Tam eva viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Krishna. Even Lord Shiva affirms that liberation can be achieved only by the mercy of Vishnu. Lord Shiva says, Mukti pradata sarveshang Vishnureva nasangshaya. There is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. Yes. So here we had the verse gave us the complete understanding of this world in a nutshell, and the purport elaborated on that from different angles. And I want to also speak a little bit about this Krishna, Vishnu. Krishna and Vishnu, there is no difference. There is just a difference in the role, or how to say. It's just like if you have a person, and maybe he's the president of the country, but he's also a father and a husband and a son and a friend in his circle of close associates. So it's not that there's a difference in his person, but there's a difference in the level of intimacy. So Krishna is that when you become very intimate with God, then you can know him as Krishna. Whereas if you take a more an attitude of awe and reverence and worship, then the level of worship is the kind of worship that you direct to Vishnu. So there's a little bit of a difference, but that difference isn't really a difference at all. Whereas Brahma and Shiva, Lord Brahma, who is the first created living being in the universe, he's a living entity like us, but he has a totally different position. And Shiva, he's very special because he's almost like Krishna, but not quite. He comes in touch with his material nature. And we mean absolutely no disrespect, because we see Vaishnavanam Tata Shambhu. Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. We respect him as a very elevated person in that context of Krishna consciousness. Brahma is the head of our sampradaya. He's the first spiritual master in the line of spiritual master. We respect him very much. But there is never a question that there is a confusion of their each respective position, because Krishna remains the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that, of course, I'm from Sweden. I don't come from a background of this. But especially if you come to India, where the Vedic culture is still somewhat relevant and active in the daily life, then depending on your tradition or your family or where you're from, you will consider yourself a Vaishnava or a Shaivite, or part of a certain tradition. And that's all right. We all have different traditions. But the point is, we're not saying you should be Vaishnava, you should worship Krishna, because our tradition is better than your tradition. We're saying this because the Vedas are saying this. Krishna himself is saying this because this is eternal. When we're in this material world, we can say, oh, my family or my tradition or, my temple, different persons. But when we leave this material world, then the eternal existence is to be connected to Krishna. So our recommendation is that we start that here and now. Thank you so much. This was a lovely verse, and you've been a lovely audience, I hope. I can't quite see you, but below here you have some links, finding a Bhagavad-gita, finding a Hare Krishna temple. I've also made playlists for each separate chapter, so it will be easy to go back and refresh your memory of the Bhagavad-gita. And I'd love any and all questions in connection to the subject of the Bhagavad-gita and Krishna consciousness. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.